Aren't you gonna say hello? We all float down here at the Hillbilly Review channel.
For my money, Stephen King's It is the best book Stephen King ever wrote. Many say The Stand instead, but those people are wrong. I'm not afraid of clowns necessarily, but after hearing about the exploits of John Wayne Gacy, well, I look at him a bit cross-eyed. There has never been a scarier clown in a movie than Pennywise, the dancing clown. Props to my man Art the Clown, who is the new horror icon of the modern age, but he can't compete with Tim Curry's version of Pennywise. I grew up with the miniseries, and I can honestly say that though I was a kid when I saw it, instead of a cynical adult like I am now, there has only been two films that have ever spooked me, The Evil Dead and this version of it. And yes, the film is one of my all-time favorite horror films. And great as Misery is, I still think it's the best Stephen King film to date. By the way, legend has it that George Romero was slated to direct the film, but had to bow out because he refused to make a censored version of the film for TV. The book is gigantic, to say the least, and it's a classic that's rarely boring throughout, with few dull spots. However, it does have its flaws. And by the way, that scene at the end is just flat disgusting. It really makes you wonder what kind of a human being Stephen King is to write something like that. That's so vulgar. I won't go over it, but anyone who's read the book knows what I'm talking about. But as much as I love the miniseries, the novel is objectively better. In fact, I think it's the second best horror novel ever written. And at over 1,000 pages, you could put someone in a coma if you threw it at someone's head. Does anyone remember when Stephen King used to write great books instead of shove his post-hippie politics down your throat? Anyway, enough of my soapbox. The story, among other things, is about nostalgia of childhood adults looking back on the bittersweet memories, looking back at lost youth, things so familiar in childhood that disappear as you age, and feel so far away you're not even sure it was real, but that it might have just been a good dream long faded, and the things that you love in childhood that can never ever get back. A time of innocence that gets lost. The more you grow up and realize that life sucks. There's a magic in childhood that fades away as you grow older, which is probably why the kids in the story are tougher than the adults they grow up to be, as they were young and stupid enough to believe they could beat an ancient alien/supernatural god, while knowing how almost impossible it is as cynical adults to do the same. Pennywise is a magical being, and it's hard to beat a magical being if you no longer believe in magic. And as for childhood, most of us think of it as an idealized time of carefree joy, though we often forget that it's often not actually as good as we remembered it, if we dig beneath the surface of our memories. In this way, Pennywise is the archetypical boogeyman that most of us have feared under our beds at one time or another. It's about an evil town called Derry, where something terrible happens every 30 years or so. That's when children begin disappearing, and an evil ancient creature wreaks havoc on the children, then hibernates for 30 years before coming back again. He's a shapeshifter who can take any form he wants, but his favorite form is the shape of a clown, which he uses to lure little children to him and feed on them, until a group of kids known around town as misfits band together to end his reign of terror. But it turns out that they only stun him. Later, he comes back, and the kids who have now grown into adults come back to finish the job once and for all. He's the ultimate sadist. He doesn't have to transform or really do anything special because he's a cosmic monster that's close to godhood. But he just loves to torment his victims mentally and emotionally hits them where they're most vulnerable. The story's great strength is the characters and their obvious affection for each other. I love every one of the kid versions of the characters in both the miniseries and the book, and I remember having a big crush on Child Beverly when I saw it as a kid. But what's really incredible is the town itself. Derry is a town of evil, and it's true that Pennywise the Clown is a huge contributor, but there are many things that happen in the town that have nothing to do with Pennywise. In the novel, King does something incredibly interesting that I have never read before. He suggests that Pennywise is less an entity and more of a reflection or a symbol of the town. In other words, Pennywise represents the evil of the town, rather than the town just being the evil clown's stomping grounds. He is a modern adaptation of Lovecraft's evil gods of old, The cool thing about the story is it's a built-in with a built-in sequel. The amazing thing in the book is that Pennywise is not the most disturbing character. He doesn't even come in second. The most disturbing character is the repulsive child named Patrick Hockstetter, the evilest kid I have ever read about or seen on TV. Henry Bowers, a sinister kid who is the main bully to the kids, comes in at a distant second. The kids not only have to fend off an ancient evil, but two of the most evil children you'll ever see. When Patrick died, it was the first time I ever cheered the death of a child in any fiction. I loved the scenes with the benevolent turtle god, who was good but lazy, who could kill Pennywise with no trouble but chooses not to because he doesn't see it as any of his business. And of course, Pennywise's true form, that of a giant evil spider god, who actually lays eggs, which means, yeah, technically Pennywise is actually female. There's also a vague other god mentioned, which I assume is the Christian god. And yeah, Pennywise is King's greatest villain. To me, it's the best miniseries ever made, and it's actually influential because it kicked off the horror miniseries boom of the 90s and 2000s. The first part, aka the kids part, is basically perfect. Likeable kids and great scenes like the Georgie scene, the bathroom scene, and the creepy scene where Pennywise comes out of the book. The film's not perfect, however. The adult actors' performances are off and on, and the amateur kids are easily superior to the adult performances. And the effects and dialogue can be cheesy. Still, it is a perfect childhood horror film. The music is gruesomely underrated too, by the way. We see two films put together. The first one shows the kid's story. The second film shows the adult story. And no, it's not near as bad as you've heard, and I happen to like it. But it's definitely inferior to the masterpiece first part. And the rather cheesy looking spider monster doesn't help matters either. Obviously, Tim Curry stole the show. He's bar none the scariest clown in fiction. Curry is a masterful actor, and this is his best performance. In the film, he's portrayed as a schizophrenic jokester, like Batman's Joker, but in the novel, he is much more sinister. But Curry's performance, to me, makes Pennywise the greatest horror monster of the 90s. He started a lifelong fear of clowns among kids of my generation, and if you're afraid of clowns, you should avoid this film like the plague. His performance is likable and repulsive at the same time. The archetypical scary clown is Curry's alone. Just like we associate Dracula with Lugosi and Krueger with Robert Englund, we associate killer clowns with him. And no one else can walk in his freakishly huge shoes. The book's all about nostalgia. It brings up the terrific idea that childhood is both the best and worst parts of our lives. It's a shame that we spend our whole childhood wishing we were adults, and all our adulthoods wishing we were kids again, when everything was more simple and magic really existed, and a lot of the people you consider close friends will move away and change and become almost unrecognizable to you, to the point when you glimpse them in the store, you might avoid them, not to snub them, but because you instinctively know that neither one of you is the same people you once were, and for all intents and purposes, you're strangers. Let's get to the elephant in the room. The It remake in 2017 was a huge hit. I was really excited to see it in theaters. I knew it had no chance of being better than my beloved original, but I knew it could stand some fine-tuning. I was at first excited that the film had such a buzz, but when I actually saw the film, I wasn't just disappointed, I was frankly irritated that anyone could say it was better than my cherished original. Listen, the original is better, and I won't waste time explaining why. I will just say that the remake, objectively speaking, is an okay movie that doesn't have even an ounce of the heart or magic of the original. The kids are good here, not as good as the original kids, but they're still fine. But the special effects were all CGI crap, that to me is even faker than the cheap-looking effects of some of the original. When I heard Patrick Hockstetter was going to be here, I was really excited. To me, that little brat was probably the most evil kid in fiction, but they basically did nothing with him here. Yes, the film is gorier, but like I said, the effects suck. And by the way, Bill Skarsgård is a pathetic Pennywise. Don't get me wrong, he's a good actor, generally, but his performance here is frankly annoying. He seems to just be some pseudo-child molester with a borderline retarded IQ. He has none of Tim's menace, nor his charm. Tim Curry is so mesmerizing that even as spooky as he is, there's something that would draw you to him. Skarsgård's Pennywise is completely repulsive. There's no way a child would want to go near him. Not because he's scary, because he's not, but because he's annoying and cringe. Even the idiots that prefer their remake admit that Tim Curry's version is so much better. And don't even get me started on the wretched sequel based on the adult version. It's the worst movie I ever had the displeasure to watch in the theaters. And my god, it never ends. It's like 3 freaking hours long. The miniseries was well over 3 hours long, but it was better paced. The adult actors are unlikable, and Pennywise's new form is even crappier than the miniseries. A mix of a fake-looking spider with the ugly original face that doesn't fit together at all. In all fairness, there is one scene that is legitimately great, when Pennywise stalks a girl under the bleachers, but that's it. The rest of it is following around boring characters who we don't like for what feels like an eternity. I tend to have to go to the bathroom a lot when I go to the movies. Anyone else? I went like 7 times, but I didn't care because I knew I wasn't missing anything. Honestly, if I hadn't have been there, and if I hadn't been left there, I would have walked out of the theater. And yeah, the woke reimagining was really annoying. All of a sudden, Richie is a closeted gay who was madly in love with the Eddie character. This came out of left field. There was no overtones at all in the first part, and it's obvious that the film just wanted to capitalize on the recent hot woke trend. Okay, here's the thing. Do you like horror movies, cute dog videos, music including rock, rap, and classical, baseball, Star Wars, or DBZ? Well, come here to the Hillbilly Review channel, the only place you can find all that crap under one channel. Like and subscribe. I'm not too proud to beg. And if you only like one of those topics, go to one of my detailed playlists to find the topic you want. Let's get with it.